All right, let's get right into it. So today we are gathered here to do the interview analysis of Nicholas, who is the founder and the CEO of Nine Yaps. So Nicholas is an incredible human. He's an incredible founder and CEO, and his company is really amazing. Let's get into the breakdown of Nicholas and his specific entrepreneurial leadership qualities of what makes him such a good leader and founder. Again, his company is Nine Apps, and let's take a look into the leader that started all of Nine Apps, Nicholas, and what makes him such a great leader. So Nicholas's vision is to take Nine Apps and to expand it into all of the markets in Florida, all of the colleges he can, to basically the same exact model that's proven to be successful, a good, successful business model, and take it with the same exact mission that's currently successful, and go to all of the colleges in Florida and eventually maybe, who knows, across the United States. So it's truly a business model that can be scaled, replicated, and it's because it's got such a great mission. So Nicholas said that his mission statement hasn't changed, but a better word, which I found very interesting, was that it has been refined. So the original mission statement that Nicholas had was bridging the gap between local businesses and students. This has been refined to support shopping local by engaging students with businesses around campus. Now it's very similar, but after talking to mentors and changing a little bit of business model, that is the new mission statement. So I found it very interesting and very mature to say that the mission isn't changing as we're scaling up, but it is refined, and it is much more tuned into what we want to express to both our clients and the people that we're reaching. It also to say that who knows, down the road we actually scale more, maybe it gets refined further, but it's not changing significantly. We have a true tried and tested product, we have a great mission and a great vision, so we're not changing much anything there. This clearly displays the cognitive factor, insight into people and situations. I truly feel that Nick is one of the people who has taken an understanding of what's going around him. These customers, these clients that he has are businesses that are around college campuses and somehow struggling to make sales and struggling to connect with the college population. Then you have a gigantic college population of college students that are coming in every year, and there's this massive disconnect. The textbook states that having an insight into people and situations is what can make entrepreneurs great leaders and great at their field. And he truly recognized that there was this gap and created such a business that can step in and help bridge that gap, which is ultimately for his clients, but it also benefits the customers of the people that are on the app, the students, and makes their social lives better as well. So let's discuss Nick's leadership style. Nick is a very well-rounded and robust character. He actually exhibits multiple leadership styles and does state that a lot of entrepreneurs in some form are a mixture of these different leadership styles. It's not typical that someone is explicitly and completely only a charismatic leader. A lot of leadership styles have great things and some things that can be worked on, and you blend the best of them together in a lot of cases. So this is definitely the case with Nick. I would like to start by saying that Nick is extremely charismatic. He is in person, he's very well spoken, he has his back straight, he exudes happiness to be doing what he's doing, he's extremely passionate, and so that goes a long way. I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a charismatic leader because he's got so many other facets, but he is a charismatic leader in the sense of the energy that he puts into his work, and it shows. He's so passionate and it just radiates out. But what more importantly, I think stands out is that Nicholas actually exhibits more so participative leadership. And what I mean by that, he's not an leader where he's just at the top calling shots saying, this is how I want it done, this needs to do it. He will team, as he says, follow him around, kind of shadow him and bring people on and kind of show them the ropes of what he's doing and what he wants to see and the direction. And then he will have his team work with him and around him and on their own to fill in those gaps and do changes where they can collaborate. So he truly has inspired this team to work collaboratively instead of just everyone getting instructions drilled at them. So in this sense, he's very democratic. He's not too autocratic. He's at the top saying this is the ultimate goal, but he's working with his team instead of directing his team, with an iron fist. So that I think is the best way to, especially when you're in a peer group as a student who's hired and having internships of fellow students, it's the best way to have everyone inspired without getting upset about the work that they're doing. So it was interesting. I've talked with Nick off camera, and I've talked with him, of course, in the interview, and I had a feeling that he would say something along the lines of his answer, that he actually interacts with clients very similarly, if not almost the exact same, that he interacts with his team. Very ethical person. He's an honest, forward person, and so his conversations, they're basically the same. He's bridging this gap between two different people that are coming together, students that want food or entertainment or services, and these that he has that are providers of that can't seem to reach their source. So him offering that bridge, it's going to be the similar conversation, just flipped for who he's talking to. So I think that really was he operated in good faith. We talked about when we read a certain text that win-win situations are what we look for, and he truly goes into his communications with his team, obviously with the public and the students that are getting on this app he's interacting with via social media or online, and then online. It is a win-win. It's a symbiotic relationship that everyone's getting from his services. So I think that is amazing, and that's what makes him a great leader in that regard. So also, when he's recruiting and trying to build a team, his way of inspiring these constituents or subordinates is with real world experience. A lot of college kids want or experience or internship under their belt, but a lot of them don't want to go through the process. As Nick said, some of them are international students and they find it very, very difficult to find something that they're allowed to do. So one of the ways that he's a great leader is he actually pitches that to his team and brings people on that are energetic and want to engage in this, but they typically would have a hard time entering that field. So he gives that opportunity, and that's one of the things that's making him stand out. It's so useful and captivating people and having a team want to join. So along the lines of that, in the startup phase, it's a lot of internships. And I think this is really smart of Nicholas, because if you're having fellow students that maybe are freshmen or sophomore that really want to get a hands-on business experience, but they have no clue where to go, they don't high-end internships because they're not about to graduate with a lot of skills, so they can't go to certain firms, you can cut and save on labor costs tremendously because you are having intern work and get on the team and help collaborative setting instead of having to hire and pay a bunch of people per hour. Now, this I thought very, very fascinating because it's transactional. This is a transaction of, if you want to be an intern and work with me and help build this business, you will get real world experience. You won't get a financial payout right away. Of course, as we scale up, this could turn into a full-time position. But I think although it's transactional, it's also very ethical still. And that's two things that are widely discussed in the text. There's a lot of leaders that are transactional and they say, if you do this, you'll get this. But this is a very ethical, where he's genuinely trying to help fellow students instead of extorting for cheap labor, let's say. And again, he leans on his team's expertise. So there, in the textbook on page 113, one of the traits and the attributes of a good leader is that they concentrate on the strengths of their group members. And I think that with Nick being a participative leader, this is exactly what he does. He's very humble and he's very aware that there's a million things that he know how to do and some things he might know how to do, but someone could help him do better. So in that way, he has no problem with leaning on his team and trusting them and working with them, which is truly collaborative, and it really makes the environment much better at actually working together to grow and scale up. Now, Nick is one of the he's one of the interesting success cases where in the beginning, resilience wasn't a hard thing that he needed a lot of. There wasn't any huge failures. There wasn't any giant roadblocks. There was, as Nick liked to say, pivots and ways that he learned to be better, but no crazy lessons. And I think that's one of the ways that leaders should look at situations. Of course, Nick had a very fortunate startup where everything kind of worked out smoothly. But even as he said, there were points where he had to pivot. He discussed that he had to learn that there's certain things you can and cannot say in email advertisements where it won't get sent out properly, or in the communication sense that he could only communicate with businesses at certain ways at certain times. They had their preferences, and he had to learn all these things. So there was little hiccups and pivots, but there wasn't any giant hardships. But I think that truly that could be attributed more to careful planning. So taking the time to really make sure that everything is set up in a way where you can avoid some foreseeable problems is very important, and sometimes overlooked with a startup or a project, even at a long existing firm. And this takes me back to, my dad used to say, saying that if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And I think that that's one of the things that Nick's exhibited, is that you take the time to really look over everything that could happen and how the best way to do something is, you might be able to ease a lot of the trouble that would arise. Now, this isn't to say that it wasn't, still a harder thing to start 9yaps. There was some bootstrapping. It was a situation where they were trying to save as much money as possible back in. But at the end of the day, one of the smartest things that I think Nick said was that there are businesses that people can start that don't take a lot of startup capital. I think everyone thinks that if you want to start a business, you need to have $1 million, an angel investor, or this and that. And while Nick did have some of that help, he also recognized very, very intelligently that if you're starting the type of business that I'm starting, I don't necessarily need to take out expensive advertisements and do all of these things. So he kind of was patient, which is another great attribute that the text talks about. And I think that we're going to discuss how Nick gets into that. But his patience to understand that I don't need to throw as much money as possible to get it off the ground consistently, where it grows slowly from here, and then in 6 months it's here, and the next 6 months it's here. And as that money comes in, now he's got 40 clients plus and has more capital where he is able to take ads out. But in the beginning, it was boots on the ground, bootstrapping, and there wasn't a need because he recognized, I don't know if the reward is going to equal the risk of putting money into the business at this point. So the low startup cost in that was really fascinating, and it actually kind of blew my mind a little bit. Now, Nick is very humble, and a great trait of an entrepreneurial leader, especially within the team. He attributes a lot of luck, and I think that he is some to play, but I also think that Nick, being a very strategic thinker and trying to avoid certain instances by being ahead of the curve, definitely helped him to not have some super big hiccups. Of course, there's lessons, like I said, in the communication lines and how and when to talk to them. But as Nick says, this is all a pivot. So I did discuss with Nick about ethics and how much ethics plays a big role for him. And basically, ethics seems to drive the entire ship. It seems to be at the heart of all of Nicholas's decisions. It's in his team. It's in his business world dealings. He says it's in his personal and his professional. And that really shows in the type of business that Nick is doing. I think at the end of the day, there is an aspect of social entrepreneurship that Nick is doing. And being a social entrepreneur, as we all know, it can't always be the easiest thing. Sometimes it takes more startup, especially if you're Tom's and you're spending more on refurbished goods than easy, cheap things you can get out of China that aren't great for the environment. But he is a social entrepreneur. He wants to connect the social aspect of the college world around him that's struggling to have better deals and better engagement and finding things to do and places to eat that's affordable as a college student, and then places that aren't realizing how much there is to get connected with these college students that might be $15,000 a semester, $16,000 coming in, as Nick says, and they don't realize that even that number. They don't realize that if they do it the right way, they could have a 40 to 60% increase in their sales in the students that want to try their product, their service. So I think he truly is doing a very socially responsible thing, a socially good thing about his business, and that just shows the ethic that he has at his heart. Now, I also briefly discussed with him power, and it was almost too simple. It makes so much sense. How could I have, and I'm speaking of his answer, of course, how could I have a power struggle that's conducive, that works with this business? People want to work with me if I'm a student, and they're students, and I'm supposed to be directing them from a power trip or a place of authority on the 100th level, when we're all in college around the same area of life. It's me to the one with the vision and the direction, and putting all the time and man hours in, some respected and listened to, of course. But it'd be better for me to collaborate. And like we said, he treats his team more democratically than autocratically. He avoids the power trip and the power struggle, just relating to his team, as which I think is a great way to go about it. Now, this goes straight into communication. The communication aspect, I told Nick, is probably my favorite aspect of entrepreneurship, because it goes into everything. It's in our lives, it's in our relationships, it's in our work. And I think that Nick is a great communicator with and outside of his teams. To actually get his teams, his style of communication to get interest, which is a huge part of being an entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneurial leader. You have to inspire and motivate people to want to work for your vision. So you have to get people to want to join your project. And that's why charismatic leaders are so successful, because that's what they do naturally. I think Nick, of course, has a lot of these talents and that specific energy as well. But he also does something very simple, which is he sells the real world experience. He gives students an opportunity to get something, a glimpse into what they want to do in life at a younger age. They don't have to wait to be a senior in a summer internship. And it's convenient. They're at the college campus, which is where the hub, the base of operation is. They're trying to get as many students on this app, on the social media, as a customer base for these clients that are trying to reach students. So it's in its real experience, and it just makes sense. So also in the textbook, page 396, leaders don't listen. Page 396 basically states that one of the problems that leaders have, which goes throughout their organizations, that they don't take the time to listen. Maybe it's involuntary. Maybe they're choosing to be so bombarded with other things that they don't to listen. But clearly Nick does. He has no problem listening to his team. He has no problem seeing if someone has a better way to do things. And he has no problem seeing what these clients want and who they're trying to attract. And he does a good job listening to all sides. And that's why he is such a great bridge and so successful. That's just point blank, period. If you know what the customers want, who they're trying to reach, what these people reach want, then you're going to have success, especially when you're advertising and marketing. So what I found interesting was Nick, he said that he originally wanted 9 Yaps to be mainly for international students. And it wasn't about mainly for international students as the students that he's reaching for his service providers, for his clients that are trying to get more customers. He said that in regards to the team that he wanted. And this goes to show his ethics as a leader and his conscientious approach to it, that a lot of people that I know that he knows are international students at USF, and they have specific guidelines and strict rules they have to adhere to about working, about being in certain organizations, how much time they can do in this, how much they can do in that, how much money they're allowed to make. So if the international student just wants to volunteer and not be on a payroll and get real world experience, be working around this team and within the team, even if it's just as a very that's not reaching any actual guidelines, they are able to get real world experience, which is exactly what they're here for, paying money to go to college. So because of that, he has a lot of international students on his team, and that's incredible. It's incredible for multiple reasons. Page 461 or 451, I believe, to 452, It discusses multiple benefits and multiple reasons to having a diverse team. And they all go basically with cultural communication. Now, it could be with products reaching the right cultural base and having the right message. It could be in gaining new cross-cultural clients of service and providers, even manufacturing parts, etc. The textbook basically says that if you have a culturally diverse team, you are going to be having higher success and very fluent interactions with different cultural business partners. And also, you're going to have a better success rate with your customer base because you're going to be able to represent their cultural facets and beliefs in a much regard. So the clients relate the mixed company culture, the services, the products, the communication within the team. It all is cross-cultural because of how he's got the outlook of hiring cultural candidates. And I think that it's especially incredible that that was his focus, just so that he could give these people opportunity, which it truly blows my mind. So in terms of physical communication, I was very keen to ask, is the method of communicating with the team? Is it on phone calls every once a week? Is it group FaceTimes? Nick actually makes sure to communicate both in person and on the phone. I believe he said that they use WhatsApp now. They shifted from a different, so they use WhatsApp to regularly communicate on their phones and via text. But they also do weekly check-ins up to 2 times a week now, especially as it gets busy. Over the summer, school is a little slower, but during the spring, up to 2 times a week was what he said is the goal. Now, this is an effort to have max collaboration. The face-to-face communication networks on page 384 stress how important face-to-face communication is. They could be strategic. There's multiple different types of these communication networks where you're talking with different goals that you can to achieve. And Nick not only talks on the phone and makes sure that he's sending out direction for the company, what the weekly goal is, but they're also checking in and meeting face to face so that they can really solidify that collaboration and so that he can democratically lead and everyone's in tune and involved with what's going on. And then he also was quick to say, when I asked him about clients and how that differs, that a client, like I said, has different communication needs. And it sounds silly, but if I was to get into business, I'm sure like he did, you at first assume, okay, I'm going to call this person, I'm going to call them all in the morning. And some of them don't want to get called at all. It doesn't matter day, night, they want to get emailed. And so some of them that are more family related would like a phone call. So there's different ways that you have to communicate. And it was very interesting that as a leader, he said that that was one of the big things he learned. He was able to connect with everything from clients to his team in the way that he needed to. Now, the textbook discusses multiple negotiation strategies, multiple negotiation approaches, and Nick was very interesting in the sense that he just approaches negotiation straightforward. This takes back to the listening so you can understand lessons that are part of in the textbook. Nick basically comes straight forward with the service of, I can help you guys reach these people. Would you like to reach these people? He listens to what they need, what their advertising needs are, and then the price comes later. But he also was very interesting with how he discussed it, that not only does he negotiate straightforward, but at the same time, at the same time, he is going to be talking to these businesses and seeing exactly how he could fit in. So it's not just about listening to them. Some of these businesses don't realize that there's 16,000 give or take students that are going to be coming into campus. So maybe they want to boost their sales, but they don't realize that 20 minutes away, 10 minutes away, 5 minutes away, there is 16 to 20,000 students that they could with the right app, with the right messaging, they could reach and massively boost their sales. So Nick does a great job at listening and also explaining to them the actual success that is to be found there. And that, I think, is why he's so successful and such a great leader. Now, I also talked with him about social media because I think that a lot of people They miss out on opportunities and gains to be had because they don't realize how vital and important in today's day and age social media is. There's a lot of quick and easy interactions to be had just by posting a 5 to 10 second video or a picture of them outside a food stand or whatnot. And it was very clear in talking to Nicholas that that is one of the things that has driven their business up tremendously. I believe he said they're getting a 250,000 or 100 to 200,000 views, something ballpark a month or two on all platforms. So if you think about that, with a company that's been in business for just a year, it goes to show how important it truly is to branch out and to make sure that you are connecting over social media and over communicating online and through these different avenues. This takes us to decision making. Decision making is those things harder in the face of uncertainty, and the textbook discusses multiple different traits that leaders have. And I was surprised to see just how many of them Nick exhibits. One of the big things that I think helps him through the uncertain times is self-confidence and perseverance and optimism. If you're scared and have no clue what to do, if you just have the belief that you're going to figure out the right thing to do and the optimism that that will come, the chances of success are a lot higher than if you just give up and say it's too hard, I don't know what to do. So Nick's solution seemed to be courage and self-confidence that he can do it. And like he said in the interview, one foot in front of the other. It's like the textbook says, with courage and self-confidence and perseverance is literally the way to go. Now, at the same time, you are going to have some decisions that require a little bit more input and a little bit more knowing and wherewithal. So at that point, it's good to have a mentor that can come in. Nick said he has 4 to 5, and it's good to have a mentor group and have people you can reach out to just for decisions, just to run things by them. And one of the things we talked about is it online and even maybe if you're on a college campus that you can go to find mentors for completely free. And if you're looking to do something, especially a business venture, it's very important to find people that you can trust and ask these harder hitting questions to. So, like I said, Nick's leader traits of confidence and optimism drive the ship. He basically, it's sounded like manifestation. All of the things that he wanted to do and that he wanted to instill in his business and grow towards, he just trusted could happen, and then did the things day to day that he believed he had to do. And that is what built this business up in less than a year. Additionally, I asked him what else has helped with this uncertainty. When you don't know at all what to do, is there modern day technology or something that you use to step in and help assist you with this? And one of the things we discussed was AI. AI is a great tool that I think gets a really bad rep, and a lot of businesses could really benefit from using AI tools. Especially young entrepreneurs, young businesses that might not know everything about their field, might not know everything, maybe even regarding a legal document. I remember asking in a private off-camera conversation, how did you do the contract for this? How did you do the legal ramifications? And he was like, I asked AI what I had to do. I didn't necessarily draft a full perfect legal document, but I had no clue before I asked. Understood the basics of what I had to cover. So I think if people understood that and started using that to fill in some cracks, it could be extremely helpful in starting new companies. And that's artificial intelligence, but you also need emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence plays a huge role in all aspects of interactions. We talked about emotional intelligence, and Nick referenced his jobs and working in restaurants for 4 years, and it brought up the great point. You have to pay attention to all the interactions going on around you and learn from them. A great leader is, like we said, a listener. So taking that time to listen, to figure out what problems can be solved. How do I solve them? What would people want, and this and that is exactly how you become one of the greatest corporations in the world, by solving a simple problem that no one was taking the time to see or to listen to. Now, Nick also discussed that you have to put yourself in people's shoes and almost have empathy. If he didn't get answered for a week by a business, maybe that guy is super busy, and it's a great person to have because he's doing a lot of business, and you shouldn't be frustrated. You should understand. Or, if you're a student working with students, they're very busy and they're frustrated. They're not going to take kindly to someone screaming at them, yelling at them, directing orders. instead, pushing the opportunity of how great it'd be to build this and where it could go, and to engage in business ways. Those are all definite reasons why listening is better than just barking orders. And Nick definitely exhibits this in every aspect of life. So the last module is innovation and growth. Basically, 9YAPS seems like it's going to explode. It is scaling up rapidly. And I believe because of that, Nick, he understands that this is a great market. There's all of these college kids, and they all want to go out and have a great burrito and have a great time with their friends. And there's a burrito stand that's not having any success getting college kids. So he's bridging that gap and filling in where there's a disconnect. And I believe that that's something that can be used on every college campus. One of the things that really impressed me, though, was how patient Nick seems to be and how much he understands that patient is really going to be make or break. While every college could use this service, if you expand too quickly without having a big enough base, then you might lose touch to the home base. So Nick is totally okay with patient and growing the business at USF until the time comes to expand, so he doesn't risk having anything faulty over at USF, which I think is an amazing trait and one of the traits that the textbook discusses about entrepreneurship. Let's keep going with innovation and growth. So Nick has competitors. There's only a few. There's only 2 or 3, and they have slightly different business models. So one of the reasons that Nick is so successful is because he actually changed the business model a little bit. So the competitors that he has 1 or 2 that he knows by name off the top of his head. They're having students pay for the deals. Now, like I said, there's a saying that says, I'm just a broke college kid. Students should not be paying for these services. The clients that he is getting, the ones providing services or goods to the students that they connect with, should be taking the brunt of it. And then the great business model is that I'm going to connect so many people that expense to my company is going to be overshadowed by how much your profits soar. So that realization of the success and the opportunity, I think that is what makes a great leader, and changing the business model so that it's not hard to get a bunch of on the app because they're paying. It's free to get on the app. Let's get as many kids as possible. And so many kids are going to get on the app that you're going to be making droves and droves of money. So I think that that's really incredible that he was able to recognize that and to make that change as a leader. And it's obviously being successful, he's reaping the benefits of it. Now, there's a couple of competitors, but there are competitors. So for the moment, like I said, he wants to stay patient and grow it here and then go to the other schools. I think that the other schools have some competitors, but with that business model, it shouldn't be very challenging at all. Now, of course, he sells these future positions and staffing as motivation to grow. So he wants to scale, he wants to grow and keep innovating, but to do that, he needs employees. And right now, he's got a couple of employees, but he has a lot of interns as well, which is interesting because normally you would think of a giant company that's got millions of revenue and they're giving out internships, paid or not paid. So it's not uncommon to have an unpaid internship. And the Nick says this is that you're in school. This is a entrepreneurial endeavor that's in the first year being very successful. This is the best chance to jump into something that's actively doing it. And that is how he motivates his team to innovate and grow. Now, one of the last things I wanted to talk about was I specifically wanted to ask Nick just to hear his answer about what makes people want to join his team. What is his specialty? And his answer is passion and drive. So on page 76, they're socially charismatic explained on that page. And socially charismatic basically uses the charisma and all the benefits you reap to help society, help the people around you. Nick has this charisma. It's just this natural way of speaking, natural happiness and passion for what he's doing that really drags people in. But he wants to use it to connect people, to connect the clients that are providing services and goods with the students that need what they need to have fun, to have food, to have services. He truly wants to connect people. So in that way, he is being a social charismatic. And I think that that's a very true answer, that his passion and his drive is what makes people want to join the team. But it's the charisma I think that he's talking about and the social intention But my answer, and it's still my answer, is that the value realization. He was able to recognize a market that's a blue ocean essentially, and completely take it over. And he's only been in the business, he already has 40 clients, 40 businesses plus. He's got sponsorships with Red Bull, with Pepsi, with Celsius, and that's incredible for track record. It's visionary in his thinking of wanting to expand and bring this to all the colleges, because there's no reason why not. It's like we said, it's a blue ocean. And he also, like he said, has the charisma, and he's people oriented. He's a people oriented leader. So all the things he does is to help the people around him, help the students he's fellowed with, help the clients that he sees every day, help the customers he drives by, the businesses, and bringing them together, which is really just people oriented. So that's all we can say for the analysis of Nicholas. I think he's an absolutely amazing leader. I think he's a great founder and CEO. I'm very lucky to have met him, and I'm looking forward to seeing the growth and the expansion. Yeah, I really truly believe like it could be at every school in Florida, every big school, and hopefully soon maybe even at schools in other states. So yeah, guys, if you want to check it out, 9yaps, local deals and discounts. They have a website, they have social medias, they have Instagram, they have LinkedIn. Nicholas himself has a LinkedIn. They have TikTok where they do amazing videos. And I really would recommend tuning in with them and seeing what they have going on. So thank you guys, and